On today's show, we got someone awesome. This was referred to us. This guy was referred to us by a really good friend that I highly trust. And immediately when I saw his book title, I was like, one, I need to read this book, but two, I need to talk to this guy and go deeper on this concept because I feel like I've experienced both sides of this coin. I've experienced not having this in my life and having this. And that difference is truly incredible. So we're going to talk about something called the 2-week vacation test. And if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to want to pay attention to this because I don't know if you'd pass the test right now. Some of you would, some of you wouldn't. And I want to talk about what that means in your business. But beyond that, if you could pass this test, like what it really means for your family. We're all about time freedom, financial abundance, and leaving a thriving family legacy at Rainmakers. And if you just build a business that makes great money, but it doesn't have time freedom, or it affects your family, affects your marriage, affects your kids, taken away from them, it's not worth it. And today's episode, we're going to really talk about Austin's journey of how he really discovered this 2-week vacation test. So, Austin, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I love the mission and the way that you guys impact people and excited to bring some value here today. So,
Man, excited to have you. I feel like we always look at like, what do people carry authority in? Like, and by authority, I mean like you've gone through it. You've gone, like, you haven't just like, you didn't just talk about it. You've gone through it. I
Mhm.
kind of see it like you've gone through the jungle with the machete and forged a pathway. And I feel like you can't write a book without about the 2-week vacation test, without really experiencing, probably some pain, right? Probably something that was like, this isn't working. So where did this come from? Like, what was that moment, aha moment? You're like, I need something to change.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. On the other side of or with greatness, before that usually becomes a lot of pain. And for me, there was a lot of pain. So I was building my first business and I wanted success so bad that I was working myself to the bone. I was working about 80 hours a week between my full-time job and building my first business on the side. And I was so stressed out, overwhelmed that I started having anxiety attacks. I had to call 911 not once, but twice with anxiety attacks. Every time I would fall asleep and drift off to sleep, my body would stop breathing. So I would gasp up in bed for breath. And I was in my mid 20s. I was running marathons. I was super fit. I should have been feeling amazing, but I was so stressed out, burnt out, and overwhelmed that my body was like, hey, bro, you got to change things. This is not the way to do it. So started having those anxiety attacks, had to admit defeat and call 911. It was just like, again, a really eye opening process. And by the time that happened the second time, I was like, all right, I'm killing myself by building this business. This is not sustainable. There has to be a better, simpler way to be successful and live a great lifestyle. Other people that I saw were thriving and not doing what I was doing and stressing themselves out to the level I was. So I was like, there has to be a better, simpler way. So I went on the journey to figure out what is that better, simpler way. And ultimately, that's where my entrepreneurship journey led me to next.
Wow. I mean, I feel like it's almost like one of those things though, it's so easy to fall into as an early stage entrepreneur because there's so
Mhm.
much kind of hustle culture out there. And I'm sure as a 20-year-old male on Instagram, that's like what you see, right? It's like you got
Mhm.
the Lambos and it's like grind, grind, hustle. I mean,
Mhm.
what was your community like in that season? Were you hearing a lot of those voices of the other people just saying, "Hey, do this thing," or did you have anyone else modeling kind of something different for you?
Well, that is the biggest thing. You're hitting it head on. Is I was doing almost everything myself. I was trying to figure it all out myself. So my first business was actually in day trading. So I got into it kind of on the side and started to get really heavy into it, and then I kind of went pro. And ultimately, I created my own algorithm, built it up, and I was making a lot of money with an automated algorithm, which sounds really cool, but it was still stressful. It was all figured out by myself. It took me years longer to be successful than I would if I had the right community, if I had the right coaching and mentoring and support, and I didn't have that. And as a result, I had so much pressure on myself that again, it built up to I couldn't handle it anymore. So had I had that support, I would have learned sooner, or definitely had not as much pressure on myself.
Wow. I mean, even for people listening to it, it's tempting to fall into that, like kind of just more input, more output, right?
Mhm.
And so, what was Austin like your first kind of shift in that? Like you're kind of in hustle mode, you're calling 911, you're like you have the wake up call, but like what was the first step that felt like in the right direction? Now you look back and you're like, okay, I'm so glad I made that step.
Mhm.
Back then, may have just been like, I don't know, maybe this is it. But what was that first step where you started to shift some things?
Yeah, the first step was to learn about this powerful thing called systems. Systems are a beautiful thing, and what I learned is like anything that you do in business is and probably should be a system. Now, a system can come in different forms. It could be automation, it could be a tech tool that you use, it could be a template, a checklist, anything to make your life easier on things that you do over and over again. And again, almost everything that you do in your business is something that you do over and over again. So I started to create systems for different things that I was doing. For instance, making decisions on which stocks I was going to invest in, or recapping my day, or tracking my numbers, or leveraging automation, or creating my own algorithm and building that so that it's automated so I didn't have to do anything besides turn it on and off. Like those are all different forms of systems. And if you stack on top of those things or one system at a time, ultimately you're making way less decisions. You're able to have way more leverage to get way more done. And be in much more control, have more predictability, have less stress, like all these positive things by leveraging systems. So just one step at a time, if you can start to leverage systems for what you're already doing, like you're already doing the work, you just put in a little bit more effort to turn it into a system. It's going to save so much capacity and make you much more successful. So systems were really, truly life changing at that point in time.
Hmm. I would love to know, Austin, when you're talking about like systems, and especially for like newer stage entrepreneurs who they see the big vision. And unfortunately, I think in culture, like we want everything yesterday. We're not willing to put in the time, which is a whole nother thing I'm sure we could talk about. But how would you, um, somebody who's feeling like overwhelmed about like systems, like where would you tell them where to start? Because I don't believe that you should, or maybe you think everyone should like have a system to like everything. And I think eventually you could, but like, what are the small things that they could start with today to like get a really big win?
Yeah. Before you start to do anything new, the best thing that you can do is figure out what to stop doing, right? Like it's more important oftentimes to figure out what to not do or what to stop doing. So like one of the first things that we do once we understand somebody's vision and mission, like where they're at, and we start to have an idea, it's like the first thing before we tell them anything to do, we're looking at to create capacity. We're looking to cut things out. So the first thing that anybody can do if you're starting to feel overwhelmed is write down where your time and energy is going. Write down all the things that you need to do. And if we get really clear on where your time and energy is going and we make it tangible by actually writing it down, and then you just start to ask yourself, is this helping me achieve my goals and vision? Is this a high impact thing? Do I need to do this or can somebody else do this? Can I systemize this? If you start to ask some very basic questions, you're going to realize a lot of what we're spending our time on isn't really impactful, or B, somebody else can do it, or C, we can leverage it through systems or whatever. So it's really about cutting things out and creating capacity first before we even go start to create systems or before we start to go do anything else. So what we've identified, and we work with now hundreds and hundreds of 6 and 7 figure business owners all across the globe, is like when we come into a new business and we really evaluate all that they're doing, all that they're spending their time on, yada, yada, we're seeing usually 30 to 40% of what they're doing that we could pretty much cut out and have no real detrimental effect on the business. All that it does is create a way more space and brain capacity and free time and ability to focus on the things that do actually matter. So, and you could even go further. Like you could say 70% of what we're doing is actually not necessarily waste, but is pretty darn close to it, right? The 80/20 rule is real, meaning that 80% of our results come from only 20% of our inputs or efforts. So if we can understand what that 20% is, let's do more of that. And we need to understand then what the 80% is and either cut that out or delegate it or offload it or systemize it. And again, focus more on things that matter most. So I would say that's a long winded way to say create capacity first, cut things out, really focus on what's essential. And it's life changing if you do. It's
I'm just
huge.
curious, what is the 30? You said when you work with all these businesses across the globe, all of your students, you've seen when you really get down to it in the beginning, there's 30 to 40% of the things that they're doing are kind of essentially not useless, but just like they're things that they shouldn't be doing. Have you kind of like pulled or gathered like what that 30 to
Yeah,
40%, like what
common
are
ones.
those things? What are the common things? I just, out of curiosity, I would love to know.
It is everywhere. Okay. So 30 to 40% of products aren't very profitable, or they're losing money, or they don't know if they're profitable or not. Right. So if we can really figure out what the main money makers are, let's triple down on those. Uh, a lot of people have 7 to 8 different marketing channels, zero of which are truly optimized truly systemized and scalable. So what we would really like to do is like cut out half of those, really streamline and systemize at least one at a time. That's like most of the businesses that we've helped scale to the next level really focus on one primary marketing channel, and then they've got a couple that are supporting. But if we can have way less channels that are way more optimized and way more scalable, that takes off so much more pressure and makes it much more efficient. And then let alone once we get into the details of their time, but the first thing with time is A, let's cut things out, and then B, let's set the right structure. So if we could just set the right structure, that alone helps people start to focus on the right things. Because a lot of people go into their day, they don't have a plan in place. They're reactive right from the start, and they're juggling 100 different things. They end their day are like, I worked hard today, but I have no idea what happened. But if we can switch that on its head and be really intentional, yes, there's going to be some reactive stuff. Yes, there's going to be some team stuff throughout the day, but we've got to be in control and win the day and do so specifically in the morning. And that'll set you up for success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like what you just shared right there is gold. Like, I loved what you said about there's people advertising or spending their time on all these different platforms. And it's like, can you hone in on just one of those and really create a good system? And from there, then share that content. I love that, like, little hack right there.
Yeah.
I think that's been the biggest shift for me, especially going from like one kid, we have two little boys, to two kids. Is like, I have to really have a
Yeah.
structure in my day and uninterrupted space. Like, I think it used to be like, oh, I can just get 10 minutes here, 5 minutes here. But when you are constantly getting interrupted, we call it switching costs. Or you're switching from the pickup line to doing an Instacart order to answering a few emails. Oh, now I'm trying to record some content. Like, it's too much all over the place. So I know for me, like, I've structured my days. I have two really big work days, and those are super focused. And I don't have that guilt of like not being with my boys because I know that I'll be with them for the rest of the week. So I love how you address that. And I think I've seen that in my own personal life. And so I can guarantee that your clients are seeing huge win with that too. So that's awesome.
Mm. Absolutely. Yeah, there's a couple muscles that we suggest building. One is the ability to focus and do deep work, right? It's like everything that we're trying to do in business, it's none of it's like rocket science. Like when you really break it down, right? Like everybody that's a problem solver is able to figure out almost everything in business or find somebody that can't, right? So that means the only thing that really in our way is the ability to do deep focused work. But so oftentimes there's so many moving pieces between personal life and business that we're not able to do that deep work. So if you can do that, like you're talking about, that's huge. The second one is the muscle that we need to rebuild, which is the ability to turn work off, right? And be present with our family and be present with our loved ones and be able to not be stressed. Because if we don't do that and we're always thinking about work, we're always stressed out about it, then we can't do that deep, focused, productive work either. And we actually lose, again, productivity and output over time. So those are two muscles that as you're building your business, you quickly lose because there's so many moving pieces, but you've got to be able to regain that back to get to the next level.
Yeah, that's so good. I feel like as we've grown our business, I mean, our system started so simple. So I think when
Hmm.
people hear this, if you're new, like, like I remember, so Austin, we didn't tell you this, but we came from the wedding industry. Before we were doing Rainmakers, e-commerce, all that stuff, we were wedding photographers. And back then we didn't really have any systems. I think the most system we had was like an email template. So like we would just save like different signatures in our email, and they were like different types of responses. Like that was like one little thing. But I remember our first hire ever wasn't even really a hire. It was like a gig. Right. And at the time we were like making handmade thank you cards for our clients, like scrapbooking them, you know? And I remember like the first time we hired just this college gal, a friend of ours, come over to the house. We had all the supplies and we had like one cart that was done. And we were like, make this. Like that was their system. Like that was literally it. The SOP, standard operating procedure, was the one that we had done. And it was like, here are the pieces. Here's what we need you to do. And she sat there for 2 hours and made all the cards for like the next 2 years, like of like clients. Right. And so like that like blew our mind. It was like the first time we'd ever paid money to like buy back time. And instead of doing those once a week for like the entire season of weddings, it was like one person sat down, got it all done. It cost us, minimum wage per hour basically to have this done for us. And it was incredible. So like, when we talk systems, sometimes like you can scale this up to 8-figure, 9-figure, like huge businesses and complex systems, but it can also be super simple. And it can also be something in your life, right? Like in your family, like do you have a system for how your teenagers take out the trash? right?
Mhm.
Like, is it not getting done the way you want it to get done? Like, maybe there's a system you can create around this, right?
Mhm.
And so we've seen this even just help our lives when like how we're structuring our days or even with our kids,
Mhm.
like stuff we've learned in business. And I mean, you've grown a huge company now. Like, I mean, take people on your entrepreneur journey a little bit because you started this trading company, you're hitting the burnout. Um, then you start implementing systems, right? You grow this business, and now you run a business called it's 2X, right? So it's 2X, and you guys help 6 and 7 year entrepreneurs really coach them to scale, and it's really through this, like through sharing your breakthrough. And so,
Mhm.
in that you've grown a big team, you've gone through this. Like, I mean, tell us about the systems in your business now. Like, what do they look like now compared to where they were then?
Oh, well, first of all, I love that you're talking about life systems. Life systems are even more important and more impactful than the business systems. And once you start to understand and leverage systems and go through those first couple wins, like you shared that example, you will never be the same because the systems are a way of life. They just make everything else easier, more successful, more productive. And a lot of people think of systems as these big scary thing or they're restrictive. In fact, they're the opposite, right? Like they're actually so freeing in so many different ways. So I love when people come to us. They're like, "I'm not a systems person." I'm like, "Trust me, you are." Like we'll get a couple in there, and like your entire life's going to change. So I just wanted to touch on that. So after my first business and my burnout, I was so burnt out, and I was making a lot of money on the side that I didn't need my corporate job anymore. So I quit the corporate job, and I stopped my day trading business, and I went and traveled around the world for 18 months. I was in my late 20s, and I was like, A, I need to recharge, and B, I want to figure out what I want to do next that has more of a contribution element, because working for a big oil company and day trading didn't like fill that part of the impact that I wanted to make. So I went on and just traveled around the world, and that was one of the best decisions of my life. And from there, I came back with a podcast and blog, and wanted to teach people about money and the mindset. And then that led to a book marketing agency that led to teaching entrepreneurs and a big partnership. And that led to seeing an opportunity to teach people about operational excellence, about systems, about freeing up their time to focus on the right things so they can have the business success and life success. So I've had now 5 different businesses, but each one of those was a stepping stone to what we do now. And it feels really good to go through those stepping stones to now be where I'm at because this is like what I want to be doing for the rest of my life, different evolutions of this realm of helping entrepreneurs and helping small businesses scale. So it's been a super cool journey. It's been super fun. And now everything that we do, our entire team, our entire culture is around systems, not to make things cold and too mechanical. It's really to make things efficient and so that we can be as successful. And everybody on our team, we're talking about taking time off. We're talking about having a level 10 life outside of business. We're talking about, making a big impact in business. We're talking about being efficient, being able to create systems within their own role so that they can get more done, they can make more money, and they can impact and they can level up to the next level as well. So systems are a part of everything. And again, we're trying to relay that from the inside out from our company to all of our clients and all the ways that we share it.
Now, the ultimate result, right, of these systems is this 2 week vacation test. Okay. We framed it at the beginning a little bit. We didn't explain really what it is. So, what is a 2 week vacation test and how do you know you passed it?
Yeah, it's a test and also a methodology to build a successful business that can run and thrive without you. So if you go right now on a 2 week, no strings attached vacation away from your business, where you don't have any email, you don't have any contact with your clients or customers or vendors, you don't have any impact or communication with your team, how would your business do? If your business can run, grow, and thrive without you, that means you have a very successful business. That means you have the team and operations in place. You've got the time freedom and now, not only again will the business be able to thrive, but now you have the time freedom and a visibility of where you should focus to grow the business to the next level. So no matter if you want to scale to the moon and build your empire, if you want to exit your company for the highest valuation, if you just want to make more profit, or you just want to have your time back and reduce your stress, ultimately building your business so that it can run and thrive without you, even for a short period of time, will create a much healthier business. So the 2 week vacation test is again a test to see that. But what it shows is that most of the time, your business is built around you, or you're stuck in the weeds, or it's just you don't have the operations or team in place that can thrive. And as a result, again, that's not going to lead to the success of why people start in business to begin with. So it's a test in that way, but it's also a methodology. And what we do is work people through a series of steps to take back control of their time, improve their team and operations, and again, be able to build a much healthier business step by step.
I remember we were on our honeymoon and we were responding to emails and
Yep.
blog posts. And I had a friend who saw that and was like, "What are you doing? You're supposed to be on your honeymoon." And again of other trips that
Oh
we
yeah.
took. And it was just like,
It was like
oh,
every
the
trip was a
email,
work
the
trip.
inquiry. Yeah.
Yeah. For a long
Yeah.
time.
And I think that people, everyone wants to be able to travel and work from anywhere. Like that is a beautiful thing. But there is moments of like, what would happen if you just took 2 weeks off like your book is, and what would really happen, and it causes you to like think about what are the systems or what are the things in the business that would break me in that. And Austin, you shared something a little bit earlier on, and I would love to get your thoughts on this. You kind of talked about like this life balance. So you have these really awesome systems in place that you want everyone to experience, but that's also because so you can have this like create this amazing life and not feel like you're going from work right into being with your family and being distracted and on your phone and responding to emails when you're really supposed to be paying attention to your kid at like the soccer game. So I would love to know, like before with your clients, do you have like a like almost like a ritual or something that you walk people through before they start their workday and then ending their workday? Because I do think it is sometimes to come into the office and go right into work, like are the things that you have people do to kind of prep them so they can get the most efficiency and have the most effectiveness. And then I think like ending the day too. Like, is there something that you have people do or even yourself to kind of close the day so you're not distracted and thinking about work?
Yep, yep, absolutely. So what we say is that there's two things that can control. You can control how you start your day, and you can control how you end your day. And what happens in between is oftentimes a blur or a little bit out of your control. And obviously, over time with systems, it's more and more there, and there's less reactivity and less fires. But it's really important to start and end your day with the proper structure. So everybody will have their own proper morning routine. But what we suggest is something called done by 10:30. All right. So the goal is to do at least 2 hours of deep and focused work on your most important priorities that you planned before the day even begins so that you go into your day just like proactive and ready to go. So 2 hours of deep work before you check anything reactive, before you check your email, before you check your social media, even before you check in with your team. Just if you can do that and you can get 2 hours of deep and focused work done, that means every single day you're improving your business. Every single day, you're setting yourself up for future success. Every single day, you're moving the needle forward on what matters most. So many people go into the day instantly reactive, instantly stressed. And again, they end their day working hard and busy, but not really moving the needle on what matters most. So again, we want to flip that. We want to be proactive. We want to be really in control. So we start with a custom morning routine. Everybody's morning routine is going to be a little bit different, depending on if you have kids or not, those types of things. But 2 hours of deep work in the morning is really, really impactful. And that leads then to what we suggest the minimum of, which is 10 hours per week working, quote unquote, on your business, which is on the most important things. So that's a great way to start the day. Um, and then to end their day, what we suggest is something called the wrap up routine. So what we do at this time is it's very short. You're just reflecting on the day. What worked, what didn't, where did your time go? Where should it have gone? Did you get your big three done for the day, which are your big three tasks that you planned for the day? Where did your time go that you should be able to, or that you should offload those things? How can you improve? And then plan the next day. So it's just a quick reflection, and what you'll see is like, all right, well, I got lost and spent an hour and a half on this thing, or here's a fire here that we can, create a system that will never have that happen again, or I can offload these three things to Susie, or whatever the details are. Stopping and reflecting and making things tangible is a really impactful process. But then you're planning the next day of saying, all right, here's my top three items for the next day. So that again, overnight, your mind's kind of working on those things, but you're not stressed about it or stressed out about it. And then you can go into your next day proactive and not necessarily reactive. And then the last thing is with the wrap up routine, having some type of trigger. So maybe you do 20 push ups, or maybe you go for a walk outside, or maybe you change your clothes. Even if you're working from home, changing your clothes is a great mental trigger to say, I'm out of work mode. And we've got to be able to have some type of trigger to start our day and be focused, and some type of trigger to end our day to really separate those things and let our mind know, hey, it's time to go from work mode to play mode. And that way you're present with your spouse. You're able to turn things off. And those are a couple things that I would suggest.
Wow. Man, that's so good. I love that because I think I've had those days where it's just reactive. Something
Yeah.
catches you in the morning, a message, an email, and all of a sudden you're just reacting to that. And then you kind of just are in that mode. We call
Mhm.
that, it's like front of office work, right? Just so you're like at the counter and you're just reacting to everything that's coming to you,
Mhm.
instead of like that cabin mountain retreat work where you're going deep on something that really matters. And so,
Mhm.
of course, you got to reactive. Like there's certain even departments in the business or just going to be fairly reactive, right? Like customer support, things like that. But I find if I have a fully reactive day like that, I don't feel great at the end of the day. Like
Mhm.
it's kind of like I helped everyone else, but I didn't really help myself move the needle on things I know I'm supposed to be doing.
Mhm.
And so I love that. Yeah, done by 10:30. That's so cool. And just kind of also, I think the planning it before I've learned because I've had days where I do that and I have days where I
Mhm.
don't do that. And the days I don't do that, I sit there for a little bit and there's a temptation to go into reactive mode. Oh, and just look in Slack, see what's
Mhm.
happening. It's like, no, don't do that. Like go to my list that I planned out for the week or I planned out ahead of time. I mean, it puts you in such more of a driver's seat of the business and less of the passenger seat. So man,
Mhm.
such good to it.
And it reduces the stress so much, right? Like that's what so much of what we're talking about ultimately does is it reduces a lot of the decisions because decision fatigue is real, right? Like we got a lot of moving pieces in business and out of business that anytime that we can reduce some of the decisions that we have to make and just really be intentional, it slows things down. It has you be in control. It reduces the reactivity, which kills so many people's dreams, kills so many small businesses, right? And yeah, done by 10:30. So the whole goal with that is to move the needle forward. And that way, your morning is a success in the morning. So that means you have the rest of the day to do whatever has to get done. But you're building that momentum and you feel really good because you mentioned oftentimes you're working hard, but you end the day, you don't really feel good. Well, if you just build that momentum right from the start by being clear and in control, by working on the most important things, by having a good, effective morning routine, by then, getting into things and building systems and then reflecting on your day, you're like, wow, I made progress today. And that's a really cool thing to feel that momentum for yourself and for your team.
I think what I'm taking with me, Austin, I love how you kind of gave me language to a few things I'm already doing, and then some things that I could like actually make sure I'm really following through with. So I loved how you said spending time at the end of your day with reflection and just looking at what you did. And I feel like for me, I write everything
Mhm.
down, and that gives me a plan for the next day. And looking at my calendar, especially the next day, we look at our calendar like 10 days out, but I think the night before or whenever, like after you're done closing up your work during that reflection, can looking ahead. And I love how you said creating triggers. Because I've noticed that like on certain days, like today is a Tuesday, and I know that right after we're done with all of our podcasting interviews, we're both doing a workout together. And I like that change of clothes, like helps me go from like my work clothes to my workout clothes. But I
Mm.
love how you said just having those triggers that tells you and your body like it's time to transition. It's time to turn this off. So that was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
I love that,
So
Austin.
good. Austin, I'm kind of selfishly wondering your opinion about meetings because as you grow your team, right, like you got systems, now you're managing people, right, and so you can do a lot via text, Slack, whatever. But what type of meetings? I mean, are you guys recommending for your entrepreneurs, like meeting structure or like even frequency? Right, I think sometimes we default to a meeting when we probably
Hmm.
don't need one. So yeah, what's your opinion on that? I'm sure you probably don't do it in the first couple hours before 10:30, but after that, like, what do meetings look like for you?
Yep. Meetings are a very essential piece, but they're oftentimes not done well. And as a result, they waste your time. They waste, as a result, your money. They don't really lead to improvement and clarity, but ultimately, they should be used to increase the production, increase the frequency of communication, while also reducing the reactivity. So this is really important. All right. So a lot of times people, are working on
Mm.
virtual teams most of the time now. So you got people on Slack, let's say, or some type of online communication, and you're pinging each other throughout the day. All right. So you're trying to do deep work, but your team is pinging you on different questions and things. When instead, what they can do is if it's essential to know right now, yes, they can ping you. But most of the time, it's not essential to know right this second. They can bring it to a meeting. And as a result, there's an allotted time so that then you can do as much productive and focused work. It's the same thing with like us as the leader. We need to not distract our team. So this is this very structured and simple way that you can then save those questions or updates for a meeting And that way they can do as much deep and focused work and not be distracted throughout the day, because we don't realize that. But oftentimes as leaders, we are distracting our team and hurting their productivity so much. With the proper meeting cadence, you're actually able to increase that. So what we suggest is the minimum amount of meetings that are needed to maximize the output. So for every business, it's a little bit different, but at least having a good weekly plan for the week so that everybody's super, super clear and aligned on the plan for the week, making sure that there's some type of opportunity to problem solve. Depending on the department or the team, that cadence could be a little bit different. It could be on a weekly basis, could be on a monthly basis. There's got to be some type of way to be able to problem solve. And then there's some type of execution focused meeting that's really about the accountability and the cadence. And that's usually a daily huddle. So we call it our meeting cadence, the 10% meeting cadence, because we suggest about 10% of a leader's time be going towards meetings to set the team up for success, to get them super clear. But we don't want it to be more than that. So in a 40-hour week, that's about 4 total hours per week in meetings. And again, that's a combination of weekly stuff with bigger problem solving meetings with the daily huddle. So we recommend the least amount that's possible, but it's really important to use them as a tool to reduce reactivity and increase the flow of communication.
It's awesome. Man, so good. I think I have too many meetings.
And if you think that you do, you probably do. And the thing is like what you want to do is make them better and better over time, right? So like we always end our meetings, any new meeting that's even in the first couple months of doing a particular meeting, it's like, hey, what's the feedback from this meeting? How can we make it better? How can we make it tighter? Because then we can get an hour-long meeting down to 30 minutes. That saves 30 minutes every single week. That's beautiful. You can still connect with people and build rapport and be efficient at the same time. So it is important to optimize those over time.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The last episode we did right before this one, we talked about the importance of tracking. Like we call it a scorecard or KPIs, or like kind of knowing your numbers, or like looking at numbers that kind of help you predict the future a little bit, you know? What systems, like, I don't know, this is probably just fresh in people's head. They're kind of thinking about it if they're listening to the show. They're like, oh, maybe they've even started to track some numbers in their business. I know, what are, how do numbers like tracking, scorecard, KPI, how do they play a role in systems? And I don't know, are there some key ones that when you see even the entrepreneurs you're working with, when they start tracking those numbers, it's like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. Are there any that come to mind?
Oh, absolutely. I love this topic so much. The numbers are the guide. They show you what's working, what's not, where to focus, what to fix, right? They give you so much clarity. They don't have the emotion and the story behind things. They're the facts, right? So anytime that we can see those, we can see much more clearly, again, what's working, what's not. We can see where we need to focus, what we need to fix, those types of things I just mentioned. So it's really, really important from an alignment standpoint to get you and your team clear and aligned on how things are going, what success is, what they need to be focusing on, and again, the progress that you can make. So it's really, really important. Now, the thing is oftentimes numbers can be overwhelming. They're overwhelming to set up. They're a pain in the butt to set up. But as soon as you start to track them and use them, they make decision making so much easier. They make supporting and guiding your team so much easier. They make accountability so much easier within your team. So what I'm saying is they're essential. But the big thing is to keep it as simple as humanly possible. A lot of people, as soon as they start, they listen to your last podcast and they're like, oh, I'm going to go track numbers. They start to track 20 or 30 numbers, and it's just overwhelming. And then they don't update it one week, and then they don't use it, and all of a sudden, they wasted 3 hours in trying to set that up. We could like to keep things as simple as humanly possible. When we start with a new business, and again, where we're already working with an established business, 6 or 7 figures at least, a lot of times we'll help them just start to track just a handful of a few key metrics, couple key metrics for marketing, couple key metrics for sales, couple key metrics for fulfillment and delivery, couple key metrics related to finance. And if we can do that, we can then go in and be more, or go in and uncover the details within that department if something's showing as an issue or an opportunity there. But just having those high level gives you so much clarity, so much more control, so much more visibility. So it's really important to track the numbers. It's really important to, though, keep it super, super, super simple as you're doing that.
It's awesome.
Yeah, the numbers and tracking things are to create more freedom in your life, And I think we were so hesitant for so long because we're like, oh, we don't need it. And we look back on like, that would have been a game changer for us, especially in our wedding business. And we just like, hoped that all the numbers worked out and we're able to live on what we made and things. And now it's like, as we grow and scale, it's so essential. And it's not to overwhelm, but it's to give you more freedom so you know what to track and where, and better show up for your family. So this has
Yeah.
been so important. Austin, if our listeners want to get in touch with you, start following you, obviously you have a book, the 2-week vacation test is coming out. So where can they find that? How can they connect with you?
Yeah, well, thanks for asking. The book is out, so you can go check it out on Amazon. So it's called The 2-Week Vacation Test. I also have another book called From Six to Seven Figures. So both those are a lot of quotes, a lot of visuals, a lot of templates and things to follow. I wanted to make the book very, very tangible, or both books very, very tangible. So check those out. They're at a very low cost on Amazon. So I'd love to get those in as many hands as possible. And I'm on Instagram at Netzley, and our website is 2x.co. 2x.co. So those are 3 resources that you can check out, and would love to connect in any way.
Sweet. Austin, thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone, go read this book and
Yes.
put yourself to the test.
Mhm.
Maybe even just 6 months from now, you could be taking a 2-week vacation and feeling so good about it. And
Mhm.
we've been, like I said, on both sides of this picture, taking a honeymoon and working. And then, I mean, when we had our second son, took 2 months off of the business, and the thing ran, it grew. And it was such a cool moment to be like, man, we let our people level up and to
Mhm.
see them thrive. It was such a rewarding thing. And so, if you're listening, you're dreaming about that in the future, we're calling it out today. This is the start of something new for
Yes, it
you. So
is.
thanks for being here, Austin. Appreciate, man.
Appreciate you guys. I love what you're doing. Keep it up, and thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our Rainmaker coaches.
If you want to get a call with them, see if it's a good fit for you to work with us to build a business that allows you to have time freedom and financial freedom, you can get that call at makeitrainmama.com/podcast. That's makeitrainmama, MOMMA.com/podcast.